Hello, friends. Do you enjoy our stories? Have you ever experienced something similar in your own life? Something that moved you or took you by surprise? Be sure to share your experiences in the comments. We love reading your stories. Let us know where you're watching from. It's always amazing to see how far our audience reaches. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. It really helps the channel grow and allows us to keep creating more great videos for you. Now enjoy the video. The waves beat restlessly against the hull as Captain Todd steered his container ship along the coast of Somalia. His face was focused, but he had no idea that danger was already approaching. Suddenly, a dull sound broke the silence. Hooks struck the deck. Pirates, armed and ready to plunder. They quickly began boarding the vessel, but Todd was no ordinary captain. He had long anticipated this moment and had prepared for it. He had an ace up his sleeve, and the pirates had no idea. As the intruders moved step by step toward the center of the ship, Tot was already making a decision. He didn't want bloodshed, but there was no time to hesitate. He grabbed the microphone and loudly announced over the intercom for the entire crew to immediately descend to the mess hall on the lower deck. He also warned them that pirates had boarded the ship. Then he shut off the engine, leaving the vessel at the mercy of the ocean. Just as he planned, the pirates, thrilled by their easy victory, scattered across the ship, unaware that Todd had been watching them the entire time. The leader of the pirates, calling himself Captain Jack, gave the order to split up. Some were to search for valuables, others to hunt down the crew. But while they thought they were in control, Todd had already begun his counteraction. He sent two of his trusted aides to lock the crew inside the mess hall, then instructed them to quickly return to the bridge. The ship was becoming a trap. Two young pirates, Ahmed and Yusuf, were ordered to inspect the upper deck. They were nervous. It was their first major raid, and the ship felt enormous and intimidating. Meanwhile, Todd and his assistant, a seasoned sea veteran named Harris, were bent over the ship's schematics. Their plan was simple: lure the pirates into a trap using the cargo hold and a decoy noise. From speakers in the hold came a faint metallic clinking, as if someone was hiding among the containers. Ahmed and Yusuf became alert and followed the sound. They entered a dark room, where dozens of brand-new smartphones gleamed under beams of their flashlights. Shiny cranes, glossy bodies, the glow was blinding. Their mission forgotten, their eyes lit up with greed. They started stuffing their pockets, not noticing the heavy door closing behind them. Captain Todd gave the signal, and the crew activated the locks. The pirates were trapped in the very snare they had chosen themselves. Their joy turned to panic instantly. Ahmed cried out in confusion, but it was too late. Meanwhile, Todd gathered his crew in the mess hall to plan the next step. Catching two was only the beginning. The main threat was Captain Jack and the rest of his men. Todd returned to the bridge and jammed all signals from the hold, so Jack couldn't contact his people. He kept watching the monitors as Jack, worried about his missing men, moved slowly through corridors. With a tense expression, Jack wandered the ship, trying to find his companions. The radio was silent, and that made him uneasy. He knew something was wrong, while Tot was already strategizing the next move. He was ready to take a bold step, to confront Jack face to face. Not to fight, but to outwit him. The crew watched Tot with concern, but he was determined. He took not weapons, but only the necessary tools to handle the situation without bloodshed. This was the most dangerous moment of the entire operation. A heavy silence settled over the ship. Tot moved step by step toward the place where he estimated Jack would be. His movements were precise, nearly silent. Then, turning behind a container, he saw Jack standing there with two armed pirates. Their eyes met. Weapons were raised, but Tot didn't flinch. His calmness was disorienting. He slowly raised his hands, signaling he had come to talk. Jack, hesitant, gave a nod. He was wary, but more than anything curious. Where was everyone? And why did this captain look so confident? Under the barrels of rifles, Tot led them through the maze of containers. He moved slowly, but his eyes scanned the area relentlessly. Every motion, every shadow. When they reached one of the cargo bays, Tot discreetly sent a signal through a hidden transmitter in his sleeve. No one noticed, but the crew was already in position. What looked like an ordinary container was in fact a trap. It held a pile of sparkling jewels, tempting and brilliant. As soon as the pirates saw the glittering treasure, their eyes lit up. Two of Jack's men couldn't resist and rushed to grab the loot, stuffing bags in a frenzy. They forgot caution, forgot their mission. Only Jack remained alert, but it was too late. A hidden panel beneath him suddenly collapsed, and he fell into a dark compartment where Todd's crew was already waiting. Before Jack could react, they had restrained and disarmed him. At the same moment, as if on cue, crew members leapt from shadows. Everything had been planned to the smallest detail. One neutralized the pirate, another knocked down the second, a third disarmed the last. It all happened in seconds. The remaining pirates didn't even realize what was going on until they were face down with their hands tied. Their bold raid had turned into total failure. And then on the horizon appeared a long-awaited silhouette, a Coast Guard vessel. The white and blue boat sped toward them, cutting through the waves. Relief washed over Todd's crew, but the captain knew better than to relax. He personally escorted the officers on board and showed them where the pirates were being held. One by one, they were let out in handcuffs, including a stunned Jack who still couldn't believe he'd been trapped. But just when it seemed like everything was over, one of the security officers inspecting the cargo containers picked up a strange signal. Equipment had detected a hidden radio transmission coming from a hold. That could mean only one thing. There might be someone else on board. Someone who had been hiding, listening, and possibly preparing a backup plan. Todd's expression instantly changed. He knew their trial wasn't over yet. Now the crew faced a new threat, and no one knew where it would strike from. It could all start again. And Todd felt it. This unknown enemy might be far more dangerous than Jack. While Coast Guard officers interrogated the pirates and collected evidence, Captain Todd and his team descended into the lower compartments. The equipment installed in the hold picked up a faint but stable radio signal. It was coming from an old service container, long believed to be empty and unused. But now, knowing someone may have stayed in the shadows all this time, Todd wasn't about to take any chances. Inside the container was pitch black. One sailor switched on a flashlight, revealing an old metal crate with rust-covered label. Todd stepped closer and suddenly heard a click. The floor shifted slightly beneath him. He realized there was a trap. The crew froze. One wrong move could trigger an explosion or a shot. That's exactly what someone would prepare for an escape. Todd, keeping a composure, signaled his technician to cut power to the sector. The lights went out, and the signal stopped. Now it was safe to open the crate. Inside was not just old wires or equipment, but a compact radio transmitter hidden inside an insulated battery block. Someone had clearly been monitoring the entire operation, sending information out. And the most terrifying part, that someone was still on board. Searches began immediately. Every compartment, every corner was checked. But after hours of combing the ship, nothing. Then a chilling theory emerged among Todd's crew. What if the traitor was one of them? Someone who had prepared a hideout, a device, and had been watching everything unfold from the inside. This was no longer a simple hijacking. This was a carefully orchestrated infiltration. Todd assembled the crew in the control room. Everyone's faces were tense. No one knew who could be trusted. Then Todd did something unexpected. He ordered each crew member to stay in their isolated cabin and not leave until further notice. This was meant to limit the movement of the suspected spy. But one man, a mechanic named Levchenko, reacted strangely to the order. He became nervous, asked too many questions, and then suddenly disappeared. A chase began. Todd and his assistant Harris rushed down to the engine room. Everything was shrouded in steam, dripping water and the roar of engines. There, in a maze of pipes and shadows, they finally found Levchenko. He was trying to hide his backpack, which contained some papers and a strange device resembling a satellite antenna. Seeing the captain, Levchenko tried to run, but Harris cleverly tripped him and the traitor fell to the floor. After interrogation, something shocking was revealed. Levchenko wasn't just a traitor. He was working for an international criminal organization that had been tracking Todd's ship for a long time. The The pirate attack had only been a diversion, while the main target was inside the vessel. The device hidden in the hold was meant to transmit the coordinates of a strategically important cargo that was being transported in secret containers on government orders. The crew was stunned. Everything now became clear. The true target wasn't gold or smartphones, but something much more dangerous, which meant the threat wasn't over yet. That night, a thick fog descended over the ocean. The headlights of the Coast Guard barely pierced the dense haze, and inside the ship, the tension could be cut with a knife. After exposing Levchenko, Captain Tot called an emergency meeting in his cabin. In front of him lay the documents seized from the mechanic's backpack. Among them were maps, satellite images, encrypted messages. Everything pointed to one shocking thing. Inside one of the containers was cargo that even Tot himself hadn't been informed about. The government, which ordered the delivery, had labeled the container as technical equipment. But now, studying the diagrams and satellite trails, the captain realized that this cargo had strategic value. The pirate attack was just part of a much larger conspiracy. Levchenko hadn't acted alone. According to a message he managed to send, another ship might soon be on its way. Not with pirates, but with mercenaries better equipped and ready for anything. The Coast Guard confirmed that a small but fast vessel had vanished from radar, and its route could intersect with the container ship's position. Time was running out. Tot made a decision to urgently hide the real container, fool any thermal or radar imaging, and prepare for a possible attack. Together with the engineers, they quickly relabeled containers and set up decoy targets. Everything had to look like there was no valuable cargo on board. While the crew worked, Coast Guard officers attempted to interrogate Levchenko again. But what they discovered shocked everyone. The cell where he was held was empty. Only handcuffs lay on the floor, and the door showed no signs of forced entry. It looked like he had simply vanished. Panic spread. Some crew members refused to believe it and started yelling that it was impossible. Others began checking ventilation ducts and hidden passages, but found nothing. It turned out there was an emergency tunnel in the ship's design, old and long unused. Only someone who knew the ship's blueprint perfectly could have used it. Tot realized Levchenko was still on board. He wasn't just a spy, he was a professional. His goal might now be not to transmit the coordinates, but to destroy the cargo so it wouldn't fall into the hands of either the pirates or the government. At that moment, one of the sailors reported, "Smoke is rising from the cargo bay." In seconds, the crew rushed to the scene. One of the containers, painted to look like a government shipment, was melting from the inside. A thermal device had been planted inside, capable of destroying everything. The fire spread quickly. There were only minutes, perhaps seconds, to prevent a catastrophe. Tot and Harris ran inside, barely staying conscious from the smoke. They coordinated the gas supply and activated the emergency fire suppression system. Everything was rumbling, cracking, metal was melting. But at the very last moment, Harris managed to cut the wires, disabling the detonation mechanism. The cargo was saved, but Harris suffered severe burns on his arm. He was carried out by hand. It was a miracle he survived, but the anxiety didn't subside. If Levchenko had managed to slip in and reach the container, he could do it again, and not even the entire Coast Guard could help. The ship fell into silence once again. It seemed calm, but Tot felt the storm was still ahead. He stood in the control room, looking at the map. The mercenary ship was getting closer. Less than an hour remained before confrontation. The Coast Guard had called for reinforcements, but they might not arrive in time. Tot made one final risky decision: to divert the ship into a safe zone where the GPS signal was unstable. This could throw the pursuers off course, or make them even more aggressive. Meanwhile, an unexpected message came from one of the guard officers. A rope ladder had been found hanging from the opposite side of the ship, leading to the technical compartment. Everything pointed to the fact that Levchenko, thought to have escaped, had been hiding the whole time. Tot realized he was waiting for the right moment to reach the control room and disable navigation. Then the ship would become an easy target for the mercenaries. Tot once again gathered those he trusted, 3 old sailors, tested by time. They split into pairs and began sweeping the technical corridors. In one of the narrow tunnels, Harris, his arm bandaged, noticed a flash. It was a reflected light from a night vision lens. Before he could give a warning, a gunshot rang out. Levchenko was armed. A sailor was wounded, but the team reacted instantly. They blocked the exit and began driving the trader into a corner like a wild animal. He was trapped near the engine room. In a final desperate move, Levchenko pulled out a second detonator and threatened to blow up the entire section. The explosion would have destroyed not only the cargo, but the entire ship. At that moment, Todd appeared from behind. He had only one chance. He threw an improvised flashbang made from a flare. The flash stunned the trader, and the team subdued him. An alarm sounded just as the second ship appeared on the horizon. It was closing in, but thanks to the decoy and disabled GPS, the enemy changed course. The mercenaries missed their target. Their vessel was soon intercepted by incoming Coast Guard ships. It all ended just miles from where the capture could have happened. When the dust settled and the ship returned to its course, Todd stood on the bridge, looking out at the fog lifting from the waves. He understood it hadn't been just an attack. It had been a test. His crew endured it. They acted as one, and every step, every trap, every decision saved lives. On the deck, Harris approached him. His voice was hoarse but firm. "We made it." Todd nodded, then looked at the very container around which all the drama had unfolded. It was still locked. But now he knew the real cargo on the ship wasn't technology or gold. It was people, their courage, their loyalty, and their willingness to fight to the end. The next day, as the ship entered the secured zone and was greeted by a fleet of Allied ships, Todd looked up at the sky. He knew that no one but them would ever know the whole truth about that night. And that was fine, because heroes aren't the ones who shout the loudest, but the ones who quietly save the world. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss more thrilling and unpredictable stories.